The mouse of the day is Locked In Larry, and he's so locked in on the gym, guys. Also, do you like this Locked In Larry Mouse of the Day trading card? It's part of my new Mouse of the Day trading card set, and you guys can get some for yourself if you check out the link below or go to awesomecheesemouse.com. Also, the official release date for these is November 1st, but you can pre-order them right now. Locked In Larry was known across the village for one thing: his unshakable commitment to the gym. For 5 years straight, not a single day had gone by where Larry didn't squeeze in a workout. Rain or shine, summer or winter, even on festival days when the rest of the mice indulged in cheese platters and napped in their burrows, Larry would be at the gym, lifting weights or running laps on his self-made mouse treadmill. It wasn't just a hobby for Larry, it was a way of life. Some mice collected stamps, others hoarded cheese. Larry, he collected gains. His small burrow was a testament to his passion. Trophies from lifting competitions lined the walls, tiny dumbbells were scattered across the floor, and a poster reading "Discipline over Comfort" hung above his bed perfectly. The gym was Larry's temple, a place where he could escape from the chaos of the outside world and focus on his one true love, fitness. Other mice were baffled by his dedication. They'd often gossip behind his back. "He's obsessed," they'd say. "Does he not ever take a break? Not even for a single slice of Gouda?" But Larry didn't care. He had a mission: to be the strongest, fastest, and fittest mouse in the entire village. And nothing, absolutely nothing, would stop him. The gym Larry went to wasn't anything fancy. It was tucked into an abandoned tunnel near the outskirts of the village. The equipment was old and a little bit rusty, weights made from scrap metal, jump ropes fashioned from string, and a pull-up bar wedged between two crumbling stones. But to Larry, it was paradise. Every day he followed a strict routine. He started with a warm-up, 500 skips on the jump rope, followed by a quick sprint through the tunnels to get his heart racing. After that, it was on to his strength training: bench presses, squats, deadlifts, and of course, plenty of pull-ups. No one could figure out how Larry could stay so lean while still managing to outlift every other mouse in the gym, but somehow he did it. Larry's obsession with consistency ran deep. If a weight felt too light, he'd add more to it. If a workout felt too easy, he'd double it. There was no such thing as a rest day in Larry's vocabulary. Once during a heavy snowstorm, the entrance to the gym was blocked by 2 feet of snow. Any other mouse would have just taken it as a sign to stay home and curl up under the blanket. But not Larry. He dug through the snow with his bare paws, inch by inch, until the path was clear. Then he hit the weights like it was just any other day. But as dedicated as Larry was, there's one thing he hadn't prepared for: the upcoming fitness competition. Every year, the village hosted Cheese Olympics, a multi-event challenge where mice from all over competed in feats of strength, speed, and agility. Larry had always been more of a solo athlete, content with his own personal records, but this year was different. His gym buddies, seeing Larry's unmatched dedication, convinced him to enter. "Come on, Larry," his friend Massive Milo urged him one day as they finished their sets. "You got this in the bag. Nobody trains harder than you, Larry." Larry shrugged, wiping the sweat from his brow. "I don't know, Massive Milo. I never competed in front of a crowd before." "That's the point," Milo grinned. "Show them what all those years in the gym were for." After a lot of persuasion, Larry finally agreed. And just like that, he found himself registered for the Cheese Olympics. There were 3 main events: the cheese wheel push, the long jump, and the endurance run. It was a chance to prove not just his strength, but his discipline and resilience. As the event drew closer, Larry ramped up his training even more. He added more weight to his lifts, ran longer laps through the tunnels, and practiced pushing a massive wheel of cheese across the gym floor. Every day felt like a battle against his own limits, but Larry was up for the challenge. To him, pain was just weakness leaving the body. But despite his intense preparation, there was a lingering fear gnawing at the back of Larry's mind. What if he failed? What if all these years he wasn't as strong as he thought? He had built his whole life around consistency, but the pressure of competition was new. The sheer thought of stumbling in front of the entire mouse village made his whiskers twitch with uneasiness. The night before the Cheese Olympics, Larry's mind raced. He replayed every workout he'd ever done, every weight he ever lifted, and every lap he'd ever completed. But despite all his preparation, doubt gnawed at him like a mouse nibbling on the rind of a tough cheese. What if he didn't perform his best? What if after these 5 years of dedication, he let himself down in front of the whole mouse village? Larry tossed and turned in his bed, but he knew one thing for sure: he would show up no matter what. The gym had taught him that consistency beats doubt every single time. He wasn't just competing against other mice, he was competing against himself. When the morning sun peeked through his mouse hole, Larry was already awake, sipping on his pre-workout cheese, and he headed out to the competition grounds. The village square buzzed with excitement as mice of all shapes and sizes prepared for the Cheese Olympics. There were tents set up, cheese stalls lining the streets, and a large crowd gathered for the event. Some mice were stretching, others were warming up, but Larry's focus was razor sharp. He tuned out that noise and focused on what he did best: getting in that zone. The first event was the cheese wheel push, a pure test of strength. Competitors had to push a massive wheel of cheese 4 times the size of any average mouse across a set distance. Larry stepped up to the starting line, rolling his shoulders to shake off the nerves. His opponent, a burly mouse named Max, smirked at him. "You ready for this, gym rat?" he said, flexing his muscles. Larry didn't respond. He just adjusted his stance, locked his paws on the wheel, and waited for the whistle. Squeak! The whistle blew and Larry exploded into action. His muscles tensed as he leaned into the wheel, his paws digging into the dirt. Max started strong, shoving his wheel forward with brute force. But Larry had trained for this moment. Every push he'd done in the gym, every weight he ever added, it was all coming into play now. The crowd roared as Larry's wheel began to move, slowly at first, but then gaining momentum with every step. His breath was steady, his focus was unbreakable. Max started to grunt and make mistakes, struggling to keep up. But Larry, he didn't break his rhythm one time. One step after another, then one push after another. And before anyone realized what was happening, Larry's wheel crossed the finish line. He had won the first event. The crowd erupted into cheers, and Massive Milo, his gym buddy, gave him an enthusiastic thumbs up from the sidelines. But Larry didn't stop to celebrate. There were 2 more events to go, and he wasn't about to let his guard down. Next up was the long jump. Now, this event was all about explosive power, and it was one of the toughest challenges for a mouse. Competitors had to leap as far as they could from the standing position with no run-up allowed. Larry stepped up to the line, his orange fur swaying in the wind as he stretched. He focused on his breathing, visualizing the jump in his mind. His opponent was Whiskers Wendy, a sleek, agile mouse with a reputation for some impressive leaps. Wendy gave Larry a sly grin. "You might have muscles, but let's see if you've got hops," she teased. Larry simply nodded, crunched low, and coiled his muscles like a spring. When the whistle blew, he launched himself into the air with every ounce of power in his legs. Time seemed to slow as he soared, his whiskers trailing behind him like streamers in the wind. When he landed, a cloud of dust rose around him. The crowd leaned in, holding their breath. The judges measured the distance, their whiskers twitching with excitement. "New record!" the announcer shouted. "Larry takes the lead." Another wave of cheer erupted from the crowd, and Larry allowed himself a small smile. 2 events down, 1 to go, but the toughest challenge was still ahead, the endurance run. The endurance run was notorious for separating the strong from the truly dedicated. It wasn't just about speed, it was about lasting through exhaustion, pain, and self-doubt. Competitors had to run a grueling 5 laps around the entire village through tunnels, up hills, and across bridges. Larry knew this was the real test. The wheel push and the long jump had just been warm-ups compared to the mental battle of the endurance run. As the competitors lined up at the starting point, the weight of the moment settled on Larry's shoulders. "You've got this, Larry," Massive Milo whispered from the sidelines. "Just remember your pace. Don't burn out too early." Larry nodded, taking a deep breath. His eyes locked onto the path ahead, and he waited for the whistle. Squeak! The race began, and the competitors bolted forward. Some mice sprinted ahead, eager to take the early lead, but Larry knew better. He kept his pace steady, his breath controlled. The first lap was easy, just another warm-up like the hundreds of runs he'd done in the gym. By the second lap, some of the sprinters began to slow. Their early burst of energy had drained them, and their breathing grew labored. But Larry stayed steady. His mind drifted to the hours he spent running alone in the tunnels, pushing through the burn, knowing that this moment would come. By the 4th lap, it was just him and one other mouse, Max, his opponent from the cheese wheel push. Max was panting heavily, his muscles straining, but he was determined to not let Larry win. "You're not getting this one," Max gasped, pushing himself harder. Larry didn't respond. He just focused inward, blocking out the pain, the fatigue, and the noise. He knew that the final lap wasn't about strength or speed, it was about heart. When they reached the final stretch, the crowd roared, their cheers echoing through the tunnels. Larry felt his muscles scream in protest, but he refused to slow down. With every step, he reminded himself of the promise he had made to himself 5 years ago, to never quit, no matter what. And then, with one final burst of energy, Larry crossed the finish line. The crowd exploded with applause. Milo and the other gym mice rushed to greet him, hoisting him over their shoulders. Larry, drenched in sweat and gasping for air, could barely believe it. He had done it. He had won the Cheese Olympics. But more than that, he had proven something to himself. All those hours in the gym had been worth it. Do you guys mess with Locked In Larry?